Hello and welcome to our Lunch and Learn. Hope you're having a good Monday so far, and I hope that you've got something nice and yummy in front of you for lunch. We're going to be talking about marketing today, so hope pens and notebooks are ready. What is marketing? So the first thing we're going to do is 7 top tips, 7 areas that you need to look at in your marketing. So the first, we'll be talking about the need to stand out. We'll then talk about afters and what we need to do about the afters. We're going to follow our customer from where they are. And we're going to look at what you need to do differently, how to shift your strategy. We're going to look at your language and what you're saying. And then we look at the content, what you're putting out there. And lastly, as a bit of a theme, as we talked about with sales, we're going to be looking at test and measure. So first of all, what is marketing? Marketing is moving from nobody knowing who you are to people knowing who you are, what you do, and why you do it. So you're moving from being the world's best top secret, best kept secret in your industry to having everybody in your industry, in your marketplace, know who you are and celebrating the fact that you are there. So it's telling people about you. There are 2 ways in which people generally market. The first is where you are out looking for your customer. So you are the ones that are out there fishing to see whether you can find somebody who will want to work with you. And the second is where your customer is looking for you. And this might be where everybody knows that they need what it is that you give. So for example, people who are business owners, they know they need an accountant. They know they need a self-assessment return done, and they need to know that their books are being looked after. So they will be looking for an accountant, and they may well go onto Google, or they may go into the Yellow Pages or any other way of finding it, but they will talk to people and they will investigate. So they are looking for you. If you are not in the situation where people know that they need you, then you're going to have to go out looking for them. You're going to be having to educate people and say what it is that you do and why it is that they need you. None of us knew we needed an MP3 player until Sony started to until Apple started to market the iPod. The iPod's probably not the best, and it probably wasn't the first MP3 player to be on the market, but it was the best marketed. So people then thought, oh yeah, I need one of those. I need to have my 100 songs in my back pocket. And now here we are with them all on our phones or on Spotify or whatever it is. So you'll need to educate people as to why it is that they need your product. So the first tip is about standing out. Now, this is really, really important if you have got a product or service that people are looking for. So, for example, my accountant, he needs to stand out from everyone else on the high street who calls themselves an accountant. And there is no prescribed thing. Most people, what is sorry, to get my teeth back in, what is an accountant is not prescribed. So anybody can call themselves an accountant. So you need to, as an accountant, to be working out what it is that makes you different. What it is about your service that is different from the guy 3 doors down. And it may be your qualification. It may be the length of time that you've been working. It may be the type of people you work with. It may be the software platform you use. And that's all well and good. But you also need to work out why people should come to you and not to somebody else who has all the same things that you have, who is a member of the ICAEW, who has had 20 years experience, has worked with SMEs for all that time, and is a Xero accountant, for example. So it's working out what you stand for. What does your firm stand for? What does your clients stand for? What is it about you that actually will attract a certain type of person? And we don't all want to attract the same people. And it's probably a good thing, because we can't, unless we are, you know, Apple or somebody like that, we cannot target the world. We are looking at our little niche and where we are, but we want to stand out in that environment, in our own marketplace. So what is it about you? Why are you in business? Why do you do what you want to do? What is your mission in the world? What is your purpose in the world? And how is it that you are helping your potential clients? You need to be very, very clear on that. And that is that's why this is the first of our top tips, because if you are clear on what it is that makes you different, the rest of your marketing will flow. But if you're not clear on what it is that makes you different, then you will get very confused. Your messages will be very, very odd, and people won't know why they should come to you. So the second thing that we need to look at is our afters, what Andy Bounds calls be an afters causing thing. So you're thinking about your message. Let's go back to my accountant. My accountant doesn't want to be saying, I'm an ICAEW member, I've had 20 years experience, I work on Xero, because there are hundreds and thousands of accountants out there who have exactly the same CV as he does. What he needs to be doing is looking at what the client needs from him. So he needs to be looking at why an accountant is looked at. So I'm not an accountant. They'll be saying, I'm not an accountant. They'll be saying, I make sure that you pay less tax. I make sure that you don't get struck off Companies House. I give you the peace of mind that your business is being looked after, and that your numbers are right, so that what your business is telling you is correct. So the business owner has the relief of knowing that his business is looked after. He has the self-confidence in what he is looking at. So when he is making a decision, he knows his numbers are right and he can make the decision. So you look at what it is that your client is left with once you have finished doing the work. What is your afters? So once you have gone, after you have gone, what has the client got? And that may be, you know, that will depend so much on what your industry is. It could be, if you're in therapy, if you're, you know, a therapist, then what they are left with is being calm, being more confident. They may be not in pain because you've been able to take that away from them. You may be leaving them with a beautiful house if you're an interior designer. You may be just making them feel good because you've enabled them to make a gift of something to somebody else that they will really cherish. So what is it that your client, your potential client, is left with after you have been working with them? So it's this zone with the big tick that you need to be looking at. You're not looking at your future. You're certainly not looking at your future, because your client doesn't give two hoots about what you're going to be doing tomorrow. They may want to know about what you've done in the past, but that's only to legitimize their feeling that you know what they're doing and what they're going to give them. You need to be looking at what the questions are that potentially in the sales zone your salespeople will be looking at, because if you're doing your marketing properly, your salesman actually doesn't have to do very much, because all of those questions that a potential client would have in a conversation have been answered in your marketing. It's all out there for them, and they feel very, very comfortable that they know what their future is going to be looking like, so that when your salesperson comes to have that conversation, or when you come to have that conversation, it's a very easy conversation, because they've had all their questions answered in your marketing, and all they are doing is looking for reassurance that actually, yes, this is the right person to go to have the future that they want. So when you're looking at your marketing, look at your, you know, what pain are you going to take away? What dream are you going to move them forward towards? and what questions could they be asking about that so that you can answer them in your marketing. So talking about making it easy, now we're going to make it easy for your client. We want to make it easy for your client to A, find you, and they B, follow you on their journey from knowing about you to becoming a client and paying you money for your service. So make it easy for them. Know where it is that your client is going to find you. Know where they are. So if your client is going to be online, you need to be online. If your client is going to be in the high street, you need to be in the high street now that we're allowed back, and hopefully we will be continue to be allowed on the high street. So where is your client? What are you going to do to find them? And this is where knowing what you're causing, knowing the afters that you're causing, knowing how you're different from everybody else will make it easy for you to plan your customer journey, because you then have an idea of who it is you're talking to and what they are going to get from you. And so you can start to plan the journey from the first time they hear about you all the way through. So what does that look like? Make it easy. If your client is going to be, if you work out that your client is going to be enjoying rugby or a sports person or a dog lover, then you need to be where those people are. So if your client's dog lovers, maybe you need to be in the park. Maybe you need to be talking to people who have dogs, who have some sort of service that the pet shops or the dog walking services. So wherever, and you see this working very well in the wedding industry, where people know that all the brides are going to be talking to, they're going to be talking to photographers, they're going to be talking to venue holders, they're going to be talking to florists. So if they can get a community of people who are in the wedding industry, then they can, it doesn't matter where the bride or the groom starts, they will then be able to find the person that they need for the next service, and it's a journey. So think about, how am I going to make it easy for my client to move through the journey that I'm going to have? Now, we've all had to, excuse me a second. We've all had to shift what we're doing. Some of us have to have bigger shifts than others. Some of us have to have completely pivot our businesses and working out. So we need to look at what our marketing is. What our marketing is saying now, today, in October 2020, is going to be completely different to what it was saying in October 2019. So what is the difference going to be for your business? Talking to somebody earlier, we don't know what Christmas is going to be like. So the traditional Christmas build-up that starts in October, we don't know what it's going to be like now. So we're going to have to think about, how is that message going to come across? What are we going to do? And because things are changing so quickly, because we are moving every day, we don't quite know what's happening. We're having to change. We need to be able to change quickly. So if something happens, we can go that way. If we are aware what our marketing is doing now, how do we change? And what we have found in lockdown is actually inbound marketing has worked a lot better than outbound marketing, which means you're encouraging your clients to come to you. So it's that attraction beacon that you're having to emit to get the client into you, rather than you going out to them. So a lot of education going on, a lot of talking about what you're doing and why you're doing, and we'll cover that in a minute. So inbound marketing, what can you do to beacon your services so people can find you? And then also, it is a lot cheaper and a lot easier to market to your clients that you have at the moment than it is to try and find new clients all the time and new customers. So what can you do to market better to the people who are already buying from you? So look at your customer loyalty benefits, look at your experience that the customer's having. Try and maximize the value to your existing customers, so that not only are they loyal to you, but they are also acting as part of your beacon. They are telling people about you, and they are getting people to come to you. So what you need to be doing is looking at this area. What is it that you need to improve on your your inbound marketing and your customer retention? How do I make it so that my current clients, my current customers are also part of my marketing? And at the very lowest possible rung of that is get testimonials from people, so that they can so people can really understand what it is that you give. And if you've got some great testimonials on your website, especially if they are, as we come to see later, if you can get a video on your website of people who actually are there, people will see that you know, people are happy with you. And there is nothing more that people like than to be actually, that person's just like me, I need what he's got. But you're not going to get those unless you really look after your clients. So make that one of your priorities. Checking your language. Now, I'm not talking about making sure you cross the I's and cross the T's, or take any swear words out of your presentations. But what I am saying is that you need to fit the language to who you are talking to. You need to be able to reflect whatever the current situation is at the moment, what they are feeling. And again, we don't quite know, there's uncertainty around, so we need to move that around. We need to be able to change our message quite quickly. But what shifted very much so in February and March and April was this move from selling and asking to let's give help, let's give advice, let's do what we can to look after people. So it was very much a compassionate sales approach, and we were looking after everybody. We were making sure that what our messages were engaging and empathetic, and that we were telling people we were still here. We were educating them on what we were now doing in our lives and in COVID situation. So you need to be aware of that. This year has seen the rise of other movements like the Black Lives Matter movement, and that, along with the suffering that's been happening with COVID, has meant that people have to be hyper aware of what messages they're giving out. So do check your language. And one of the things that you need to be looking at is what emotion your client will be feeling, and try and work on that. Because 80% of sales decisions are based on emotion. So if in your marketing you can get to the emotion and really tug on those strings, then again, it will make your sales conversations a lot easier, because all your sales conversations need to be doing is backing up the emotional decision somebody's already made with the logic that they need to be able to say to somebody, yes, this is why I bought. And it stops having buyer's remorse. So get to the emotion. I was talking to a florist earlier last week, and they have running the whole gauntlet of emotions. They've got the joy of a new wedding or a new baby, you know, something to celebrate, something like that, all the way through to the hope of Valentine's Day, where people are you know, hoping that these 20 red roses are going to sway the girl of their dreams, or whatever it is that you know. So you've got all those emotions, and then you've got the funerals, you've got the people who are really suffering grief. So for a florist, you can see that whole emotional gambit that they need to talk about. So they need to be very careful of which emotion they're leading with. And I think it's very important that you work out where you're on that spectrum your client is going to be. And if you need to have different marketing for different services, so be it. But work out what the emotion is, and work out how it is that you're going to talk to your clients, and what language it is that you're going to be needing to use. Penultimate tip, which is quite a big one, is looking at your content. So your content is all of the other things that you're going to be sending out. But without the first 5 in place, it doesn't matter what you're sending out, because you're never going to get it right. If you don't know what your mission is, you don't know why you're there, if you don't understand what your afters are, if you don't understand who your client is and where they are, and if you haven't got your language right, then it, you know, your content will be missing. Whatever you put out will not give the result that you want. So your content is anything you're putting out on your website, on social media, on any print material that you've got, in any shop windows that you've got, high street presence that you have, radio, television, whatever it is that you're using, your content needs to be right. I've got the an acronym, whatever, AIDA up there to talk, because this is something that to bear in mind when you're writing your content. You need to entertain. If it's really boring, people won't watch it. They won't listen to it. They won't read it. It needs to inspire. So you're moving somebody on. You're moving them towards their goal, towards what it is that they want to have. You may need to educate them. You may need to tell them, and you know, we've got Brexit coming up in a not very near future. You may need to explain how you're going to be coping with that. Educate them on what it is you're doing about the new COVID regulations in your area. You need to inform them about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you need to open dialogue. And this works really well on social media. And I'm sure we've all seen it, where somebody has thrown a inflammatory remark into a Facebook page or into a group just to get the conversation going, and people come back and forth and they say something and they talk, and it gets the dialogue going. Be careful what you are throwing in, if you're going to be doing that, because it still needs to be on message. But quite often you see in groups things like, what are you reading at the moment, what you're doing at the weekend, you know, just something that will open a dialogue so that people start to engage with you. As I say, the website is important, so make sure that everything on there is on brand, that it's giving the impression you want, that you're appealing to the right people, and that people can find their way around. But most importantly, if you're bringing everybody from your social media to your website, you need to have a way of capturing them when they hit your website, so that you've got their information, so that you can then go on to market to them in a particular way. And one of the things that has worked really well is to have something on your website that they can have for free, that they have to put their email into, sign up for GDPR or not. But actually that does give them the information, and some of them will want more information from you. So how could you use your website more? Make sure that it's working for you, make sure it's generating those leads. I said earlier about video, really, really important that you're using video now. If you're not using video, you need to be starting to think about video, because video is the one thing that will up your ratings on Facebook, on LinkedIn, in Google, on anywhere, any platform. They like you to see videos. They don't have to be posh, they don't have to be long, they can be snippets, they can be 50 seconds, they can be 50 minutes, you know, depending on the subject of what you're doing. Make it relevant to your audience, but do get some videos on there. And you know, I hate seeing myself on camera, and I hate seeing this, but one of the things that lockdown did is it forced me to start doing webinars. We did them without the face to start with. We're gradually showing our faces. We're getting a little brave on here, and people would like to see that, because they like to see the people behind the businesses. So again, on social media, you just got to keep your content going through, keep it fresh, keep it revived, keep it appropriate to the one platform that you're using, so that your content is actually working for you, whether that's in Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Pinterest or any of the other ones that are using. You know, you've really got to be working within the rules that they want you to be working in, so that you can get the most of them. And if you don't understand, then go and find somebody who does, so that you can get off to a good start, because it's real. This is going to be so much more important, and going forward now, everybody's online. You know, make sure that the people are finding you, that you're standing out, and that your content is good. if you need to do Facebook posts or Facebook boosts, make sure you understand the difference so that you can move on. And again, if you don't understand, find somebody who does. And lastly, our last top tip is to test and measure. And this is something that we do across everything within Action Coach. We talked about it on sales. And again, what we're doing is we're measuring our activity levels and measuring our outcomes so that we can understand where our successes and where our failures have come from. And often an outcome hasn't happened because the activity that preceded it wasn't the right activity. So if you're getting a different outcome to what you wanted, then look at your activity. What is it saying about you? What is it saying about what you've done? Look at it carefully to see how it could be better. And you could think about using something like this that we use with our clients. What is your strategy? What is the KPI that I've got that I can use for that? How many leads it is? Simple spreadsheet is fine, but if you want to use something more complicated, if you want to use a CRM or some sort of marketing tool, then do. It's just a question of making sure that you've logged all your activity. To be perfectly honest, a whiteboard on the wall is as good as anything else because it's visible to everybody. So make sure that your activity is being seen so that you can test and measure. And once you have tested and measured, you can get rid of the things that are not working, because you don't want to spend your marketing budget on things that are not working. You only want to be spending it on things that are going to move you from top secret to celebrated. And if your marketing is not doing that, you need to change it. So there are my top 7 tips for better marketing. Hopefully that's helped. But Rupert and I are very, very happy to look at your marketing. So if you want a free marketing review, then give us a shout. There are sign up on the website that you can have a look at, or message us through Facebook, or look at, email me at ActionCOACH, Angela Turton at actioncoach.com, and we can book something in for you. Thank you for joining me this Monday. I will be back in a fortnight's time when we'll be looking at top tips for time. So how to get the most out of your time, something that's really important coming up to the very busy period around Christmas. Obviously, we don't know what it's actually going to look like at the moment, but we need to be prepared and we need to be ready to actually maximize the time as much as we can. In the meantime, have a very good week. Enjoy the rest of your lunch, and I will see you in a fortnight. Thank you.